The first thing that children need to be able to do is to identify, to hear rhymes. R-H-Y-M-E-S. And those who've done similar courses will know why I've spelled that word for you, because there's an R-I-M-E-S that we'll do very shortly. And there is a difference between the two. So we're talking over R-H-Y-M-E-S. Identifying and producing rhymes. How do you teach rhyming words? I want someone to tell me how you teach rhyming words. What do you do when you're teaching rhyming words? So what do we tell children? That the words have the same. We tell them the words sound the same at the end. And what do we do? So we tell them that, and what do we give them when we're teaching rhyming words? What do we put on the board? Words that look the same, words that are from the same family. That's what we do. That's what we do. And because that's what we do, unintentionally, we are really hindering our children from learning rhymes the way they ought to. Now, remember I said that rhyming is the first stage of phonemic awareness. We said phonemic awareness is strictly what? Sound, strictly auditory. But yeah, when we're teaching rhyming words, we start with words. So we say cat, bat, fat. All the same word family, all those words rhyme. So when you are teaching rhymes, you should teach rhymes with pictures. Pictures. Because you don't want children to rely on that ending string of letters. And that's what they're doing. Even at the class 4 level, when they're doing poetry, they always look for the words that have the same string of ending letters as the rhyming words. So if the words don't end with the same string, they tell you that there's no rhyming scheme. We use lots of poems, books with rhymes. I'm going to do one of those in a second. So I put a picture card on your table. There should be 4 on each table. I put 4 because each table has places for 8 people. One person is going to say the name of the picture. The other one is going to produce a rhyme, any rhyme that comes to mind, whether it be a poor, a real word, or a nonsense word. So the first person is going to do this. When I say, and you call the name of the picture, the next person will say, I say, in response. When I say cat.
So when you're using rhymes, do you necessarily have to use a real word?
No.
Okay.
Because you just listen to sound. Producing rhymes. You want to identify rhymes. I'm going to read this story, which is fast becoming a favorite of mine. Hot, dickety, dog. And let me caution you, even though we're not doing comprehension, you should never open a book without talking to your children first about what is happening on the outside. And very often we focus only on the front, but the back also has information. Well, this one doesn't have a lot, but usually books do have a little blurb at the back, which gives you some extra information on what the book is about and that kind of thing. So you need to get children used to handling books and to understanding all the information the book gives, okay? I'm going to read each page and I want you to tell me the words that rhyme. So let's go. The little puppy dog and the red and tan hog ran into our house. Hot dickety dog. Rhyming is the first phonemic awareness task that you want your children to get accustomed to. The next task is that of alliteration. And what do I mean by alliteration? The repetition of the same beginning sound in a series of words. And often we are exposed to alliteration in tongue twisters. Like Peter Piper. Now you can help your children, you can get your children to generate their own alliteration. And so we're going to do that now. Each of you are going to think of the sound that your first name begins with. Your first name, the sound that it begins with. I want you, and now if you're dealing with older children, you can talk about nouns and verbs and adjectives. But for the younger children, I want you to think of a word that you think talks about or describes you that begins with the same sound as your name. And you're going to put that word in front of your name. So, for example, my name is Pamela. So I'm going to say polite Pamela. But then I want to think of another word to put on the end, something that polite Pamela can do. Polite Pamela pauses. So you see how you can get your children to use the sounds in a fun way. And children like to talk about themselves. So as soon as you tell them to use their own name, it becomes something very personal. And they put some effort into it. So that is alliteration. If you are doing now the sound, but it's not coming at the beginning of the word, suppose it's coming in the middle of the word, it's called assonance. Okay, so alliteration is when that sound is being repeated at the beginning. Assonance is when it's being repeated in the middle. For example, if I said the leaf, the bean, the peach, all were within reach. What's the sound I'm repeating all the time? That E sound in the middle of the words. Right? That's called assonance. A-S-S-O-N-A-N-C-E. Alright. Now, the next set of activities that you would do in phonemic awareness would be identifying and recognizing phonemes. And I'm not going to go into that because Ms. Blackmore would have done a lot of that this morning. For example, when she asked you to say the sound and show you the pictures, I noticed that she was only pictures. All this time we've not done any words or anything because we're just listening and we're producing sounds and working with sounds. She would have asked you to identify the sounds that those pictures on the board. You call the words and you listen for a particular sound in a particular environment. She actually did 2 phonemic awareness skills. You were identifying sound, identifying phonemes. You were categorizing phonemes when you were looking to see which sound you were hearing in all 3 of them. So in the pencil, the house, and the saw, what sound were you hearing all the time? So you were categorizing the phoneme. Then she asked, where do you hear the sound? You are identifying the phoneme position. And these are things you want the children to be able to do. To identify the sounds, one. To be able to tell you when they're hearing the sound in a series of words or whatever have you. And also to be able to say which position the sound is occurring in. Because position is going to become very important as you start to read. Okay? So those were 3 things that were done all at once. Now, we're going to look now at phoneme segmenting and phoneme counting. And by segmenting, if you segment something, you're doing what with it? You're taking it apart. Now, when would you need to be able to take apart sounds? In what subject areas? When you are reading and spelling, you want to be able to take the sounds apart for reading, and you got to take them apart for spelling. So you hear a word, you automatically start to segment it into its bits in order to spell that word. When you see the word on paper, you automatically start to pull it apart to get those sounds. For spelling only, you segment and stop there. But for reading purposes, you segment and then you blend. And you pull apart the sounds and then you put them back together to give you one sound. Right? So you look at the individual sounds you're seeing and then you try to put those sounds together to give you a word. So you blend and you segment. We're going to start with the segmenting activities. Now on your table you have a little card that I recognize that some people, I know that there's some people who should know what this card is called. And the thing is that the person who mentioned it first was not one of the person who was in the workshop with me before. So I was impressed. Because not people know what they're talking about up there. This little card is called a what? An Alconin box. Sounds very scientific. And it was named after the Russian scientist, a psychologist actually, who recognized that young children were able to work with phonemes best when they had objects to manipulate. So he decided that this simple little box would become a very useful tool for teachers of reading. Each square represents a sound. And so you use anything that you can mark those functions so they paint the pretty counters. I'm going to be working with children who want pretty stuff. Things that they're going to be happy to. So I'm going to call a word, and I want you to use a counter to represent each sound in there in that word. It's not very simple. But before we do this activity, I'm going to stick something else in here. Because we work with the sounds at the level of the syllable. I said the next thing will be chunking of words. And here's where the R-I-M-E-S comes in. What comes before the vowel is called the onset. What comes with, not after the vowel and everything that comes with it in the syllable is called the rhyme. So if I say the word cat, what's the onset? Right, I was correcting the sound. Right? Not saying that it was wrong, I was just correcting the sound. It's not k. Because then if I put O after that, it becomes a comma. And the sound changes. So we have to be very careful not to add on the extra vowel sound behind our letter sounds. Because it can become very confusing for a child. If I say B says B, and then they give each other a word B-E-D that they've never heard, they will say B-ed. And it's going to be interfering. So you have to make sure that you cut that vowel sound off. It's almost impossible on some sounds. You have to cut it as short as you can so it does not interfere. So really, B and P are produced almost the exact same way, just that one has a little more air than the other. So whereas there's a puff of air, it calls for a little more pop. Right? But they produce almost the exact same way in the mouth. Right, so onset rhymes. You can get children to segment words at the level of the onset and the rhyme. And that's what we use for our word families. Our word families, sorry. When you are doing word families, all you are doing is changing the onset all the time. So cat, mat, fat, hat, rat, bat, sat, chat. All you're doing is changing that onset. The rhyme remains the same. So there is a relationship between words that rhyme and the R-I-M-E. Words that rhyme and they rhyme, because words that rhyme have the same rhyme. That note is segmented at the level of the phoneme. And that's what this is for. It's for segmenting phonemes. Alright? So I'm going to give you the word am. I want you to so identify all the sounds you can hear in am using the counters on your phoneme box. Each counter represents a sound. How many sounds? One or two sounds. And you can use anything that stretches to help children identify or to segment sounds. Identify sounds and segment them. Because we can stretch the word out and hear all the sounds in it. So if you wanted a child to do this with a phoneme box and you found that they were not hearing the sounds well, you can ask them to stretch out the word. So I said am, and you said but you can ask the child to stretch it out as long as they must hear all the individual sounds. So let's stretch out Can you hear the two sounds clearly? Yes, you can. If you don't have this, you can use rubber bands. Okay? And or you can get them to use their hands and they stretch their hands out as they segment.